Hi, thank you for this platform. What a needed time to hear stories of grace and faithfulness, of our collective humanity, and of His glory. I've been trying to think all week. I've been a little panicked all week trying to think about what examples of His faithfulness I could share that would be the most relatable or have the most impact. And then it dawned on me that it's completely human to try to categorize something that we can't even fully conceive. It's just that there's been so many times in my life that His faithfulness has not only given me the hope to help me through, but has outright plucked me from the fire and given me shelter and refuge. I ended up deciding that my whole life has been and will continue to be a story of His grace and faithfulness in the smallest, most personal ways and in the biggest, most public displays. He continually brings good from what was intended to harm. Looking back, I see time and time and time again that felt like suffering, but was truly a blessing. He is faithful, never leaving or forsaking us. And just as God was faithful to Noah, He has been faithful to me. He provided life when death could have consumed me. More than once, actually. More than 15 years ago, my oldest son and I were clipped by a semi in a whiteout while we were traveling home. We, by all accounts, should have went over the overpass, but didn't. We both distinctly remember our car suddenly turning and going the opposite direction, as if there was a barrier of protection. We had no marks where the impact would have been, and both walked away unharmed. 12 years ago, while I was 7 months pregnant with my youngest daughter, a small car I was driving for work took a direct hit from a semi going 55 miles per hour. The car was missing every window, most of the tires, and came to rest several hundred yards from the site of impact. My daughter earned her name Olivia Grace, or Alive by Grace, that day, as I was completely unharmed, as was she. God is faithful, holding and protecting us. And just as God was faithful to Ishmael and his descendants, He has been faithful to me. Uncertainty, chaos, and not belonging filled my childhood as I moved a lot, almost 24 times, mostly while fleeing an abusive relationship with my mom. In the midst of it, I didn't even know if my mom would be alive to raise me. But God hears our cries. Today, I'm blessed with 4 children who have been released from that brokenness. And my mom lives a peaceful life, literally in a cabin in the woods. He is faithful. He has a love that sets us free and a light that shines in the dark. And just as God was faithful to Joseph, He's been faithful to me. Although tragedy may abound in this life, from the loss of loved ones, for me, most notably my grandparents, who were a huge support and constant source of unconditional love, to shattered dreams that disintegrated before my eyes, to the loss of trust, to betrayals from those I loved most, to hurt so overwhelming it felt as if my world was collapsing in. But the triumph of Joseph's story is also mine. Deliverance, reconciliation, a future of abundance. He is faithful, waiting for the weary and holding us in His arms. There's prophecy after prophecy promising His faithfulness, stories of miracles in the middle of horrible messes, of a Jesus so faithful that Paul sat in a prison cell in the face of ultimate uncertainty, confident, because he knew of his faithfulness. It had shown up time and time and time again in Paul's life. In Philippians 1:22, Paul says, if I live, he didn't even know if his life was going to continue, but he knew of his God's faithfulness. If I live. We may have uncertainties, but God will show up. He may not remove us from the situation, which is where I walk today, but I know he's blessing me in other ways. He has brought me strangers who have become family. He has brought me opportunities where I was when I didn't even want to be there. He continues to remind me that in his faithfulness, there will always be fruit. He is unmovable, unshakable, and never ending. And we all have stories of hurt and betrayal. We all understand hard, complicated relationships. If not before, we've all recently experienced our world's collapsing and devastating heartbreak. We've all felt scared, lonely, and uncertain. But suffering and blessings are not mutually exclusive. Valley or mountaintop, pit or palace, God is faithful. His faithfulness doesn't erase the pain or sweep the hurt we've experienced under the rug. It doesn't eradicate the evil in our world or strip the suffering from our life. But his faithfulness shows that there has been and will always be hope. It allows us to look forward, knowing that the plans he made for us were in place long before the hard times ever came. He brings all things together to work for good in his purpose. He is faithful. His faithfulness and unfailing love are always present in big ways and in small. So take heart and have hope.